Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Georg, and on this episode, we're gonna be, talking about Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and the sections in this episode will be pretty long, as Toronto is the number one most populated city in Canada, so this episode will be, pretty long, and yeah, on to the first section. So, I'll be talking about the flag of Toronto and the coat of arms. The flag of Toronto, Ontario, Canada was designed by Renato DeSantis, a 21-year-old George Brown College student at the time. His flag won in a 1974 competition held by the Old City of Toronto Flag Design Committee. I know that's like a really big fancy schmancy name. Keep in mind, the Old City of Toronto is not not the now known city of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'll be talking about it later in political geography. After the city became the Toronto that everyone knows today in 1998, the new Toronto City Council looked for different designs from the public by launching a flag creation competition in 1997, but could not approve of any. At a council meeting in November 1999, after a month of heated debate, Deputy Mayor Case Oates decided to let the public have a say in what flag design they preferred. Deputy Mayor Oates, who was chairing the meeting, polled the audience in the council chambers as to what they liked the best. And the slightly modified original flag designed by Renato DeSantis, or design recommended by Councillor Brad Dougherty. Councillor Dougherty's design received polite applause, while the former Toronto flag evoked cheers and whistles from the audience. Clearly the favorite. So the Renato DeSantis, his flag was more flavored over the council's one. And council adopted the modified old design with a vote of 31 to 14. The city of Toronto had its new flag. The flag shown here was now, on the screen, was now the official flag of Toronto. Now that I explained a bit about the history of the flag, I'll now be saying what each part means. The blue means the sky above Toronto, and the way the white lines are drawn to make Toronto City Hall. The white lines also make the letter T, which is the first letter of Toronto. Finally, the red maple leaf flag is on there because red is the color of Canada on the national flag, and the maple leaf, I was about to say maple syrup, and the maple leaf has been a historical symbol of Canada. The City of Toronto coat of arms, and now I'm going to be talking about the City of Toronto coat of arms. The City of Toronto coat of arms is an official symbol and is intended for ceremonial application only. Use of coat of arms on business stationery is restricted to the mayor and members of council. The shield represents the two towers of Toronto City Hall, with the blue sky between and above the towers, which form a capital letter T. The city wall represents the symbol of the city's responsibility to shelter and protect its people. On the wall are the symbols of the former city of York. York is a rose with green thorns. The former city of North York, a heart with the city with the heart, and the former borough of East York. York. It's also a York rose with a gold center. The intertwining color at the top symbolizes added strength when working together. This is where the motto "Diversity of Strength" came from. Now I'm going to be talking about more different parts. The honeycomb. The honeycomb is a symbol of energy and productivity. It is hanging on the collar of a beaver in a gold hexagon shape. The green adler leaf. An adler is the name of the tree. This is a symbol of the former city of Etobicoke, whose name means place where adler grows. The beaver. This is a symbol of the city's history for industry and activity. From our history, fur trading made its way down to downtown, which became known as Toronto, the meeting place. The green grass. This symbolizes many parks and recreational facilities of which the city is proud. The bear. The bear represents strength, determination, caring, and protection of its offspring. The dark color brown represents the color of the earth. The columbine flower. This flower is a symbol of the former city of Scarborough. It's hanging on the collar of the bear in the gold hexagon shape. The placement of the green alder and leaf and columbine flower shows the geographic placement of Etobicoke on the west and Scarborough on the east. The three rivers. This symbol represents the three rivers: the Humber River, the Don River, and the Rouge River, all going through Toronto, flowing into Lake Ontario. Diversity or strength. This is the motto that describes the city. It refers to the combined strength of seven municipalities. One of the municipalities relate back to Metro Toronto. Toronto did use this flag from 1954 until 1998, when it became the amalgamated city of Toronto. The change shape symbolizes the 6 boroughs of Toronto. The blue means the Toronto sky, and the green means the Toronto grass. On to the next section. Alright, so physical geography. The city is mostly flat or gentle hills, and the land gently slopes upwards away from the lake. The flat land is interrupted by numerous ravines cut by numerous creeks and valleys of the 3 rivers in Toronto: the Humber River in the west end, and the Don River east of downtown at the opposite ends of the Toronto Harbor, and the Rouge River at the city's eastern limits. Most of the ravines and lands in Toronto are parklands and recreational trails that are laid out among the rivers, ravines, and valleys. The original town was laid out in a grid plan on the flat plain north of a harbor, and this plan was extended outwards as the city grew. The width and depth of several of the ravines and valleys are such that several grid streets, such as Finch Avenue, Leslie Street, Lawrence Avenue, and St. Clair Avenue, terminate on one side of a ravine or valley and continue on the other side. Toronto has many bridges spanning the ravines. Large bridges such as the Prince Edward Viaduct were built to span wide river valleys. Despite the deep ravines, Toronto is not remarkably hilly, but its elevation does increase steadily away from the lake. Elevation differences range from 75 meters (246 feet) above sea level at Lake Ontario shore to 209 meters. There are occasionally hilly areas. In particular, Midtown Toronto has a number of sharply sloping hills. Lake Ontario remains occasionally visible from peaks of the ridges as far north as Eglinton Avenue, 7 to 8 kilometers inland. The other major geographical features of Toronto is its escarpments. During the last ice age, the lower part of Toronto was beneath Glacial Lake Iroquois. Today, a series of escarpments mark the lake's former boundaries, known as the Iroquois shoreline. These escarpments are most prominent from Victoria Park Avenue to the mouth of Highland Creek, where they form the Scarborough Bluffs. Other observable sections include the area near St. Clair Avenue west between Bathurst and the Don River, north of Davenport Road, from Caledonia to Spadina Road. The Casa Loma grounds sit above this escarpment. The geography of the lake shore is greatly changed since the first settlement of Toronto. Much of the land on the north shore of the harbor is landfill, filled in during the late 19th century. Until then, the lakefront docks, then known as wharves, were set back farther inland than it is today. Most of the adjacent port lands on the east side of the harbor was a wetland filled in the early 20th century. The shoreline from the harbor west, the Humber River, has been extended to the lake. Further west, landfill has created extensions of land such as Humber Bay Park. The Toronto Islands were a natural peninsula until a storm in 1858 severed the connection to the mainland, creating a channel to the harbor. The peninsula was formed by longshore drift, taking the sediment deposited along the Scarborough Bluffs and transporting them to the island's area. The other source of sediment for the port's wetland and the peninsula was the deposition of the Don River, which carved a wide valley through the sedimentary land of Toronto and deposited at the harbor, which is quite shallow. The harbor and the channel of the Don River has been dredged numerous times for shipping. The lower section of the Don River was straightened and channeled in the 19th century. The former mouth drained into a wetland. Today, the Don drains into a harbor through a concrete waterway, the Keating Channel. First, Toronto was called the Town of York from 1793 to 1834. Then from 1834 to 1854, Toronto was known as the City of Toronto or Old Toronto, but nowhere close to the Toronto we all know today. Sorry, I'm not going into detail about these eras. If you want to, do your own research from 1793 to 1834, you can do it, or 1834 to 1954. I just got a lot to cover, and I'm trying to do it as fast as possible. And in 1950, I'm just going to start from when it was called the City of Toronto in 1954. In 1954, the City of Toronto and 12 surrounding municipalities were federated into a regional government known as Metropolitan Toronto. The post-war boom had resulted in rapid suburban development, and it was believed that it coordinated that a coordinated land use strategy and shared services will provide greater efficiency for the region. The metropolitan government began to manage services that crossed multiple boundaries, including highways, police services, water and public transit. In that year, a half century after the Great Fire of 1904, disaster struck the city again when Hurricane Hazel brought intense winds and flash flooding. In the Toronto area, 81 people were killed, nearly 1,900 families were left homeless, and the hurricane caused more than $25 million in damage. In 1967, 7 small municipalities, Toronto, were merged into the larger neighbors, resulting in a 6-municipality configuration that included the old city of Toronto and the surrounding municipalities of East York, Etobicoke, North York, Scarborough, and York. In 1998, the Conservative provincial-led government by Mike Harris dissolved the metropolitan government despite vigorous opposition from the component municipalities and overwhelming rejection in a municipal plebiscite. All 6 municipalities were amalgamated into a single municipality, creating the current city of Toronto that we all know and love today, the successor of the old city of Toronto. The same border remained of Toronto from 1954 today, but the difference is that all the smaller communities of Toronto merged into the bigger ones to form today's Toronto. All the amalgamated big places such as East York, Etobicoke, North York, Scarborough, and York have enough people for me to do a whole episode on each of areas in Toronto. But since they're not an official city, I'm not gonna do them anymore. But unless you want me to, leave a comment down below. I might do it when I get more bigger and more subscribers, or I just get a request. Enough requests. I'm just going to be talking about the city of Toronto. But if you really, 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 as I said before, if you really want, a comment, and all these boroughs have a lot of history. And anyways, so moving on. What borders Toronto to the northwest is Vaughan, Markham to the northeast, Pickering to the east, and Brampton and Mississauga to the west. When Europeans first arrived at site present-day Toronto, the vicinity was inhabited by the Iroquois, which was a First Nations tribe in southern Ontario. The demographics of Toronto, Ontario, and Canada make Toronto one of the most multicultural cities in the world. Christianity is the largest faith group in Toronto census metropolitan area, adhered to by 56.7% of the population, with Roman Catholics in particular being 30.4% of the population. 21.1% of the population has no religious affiliation. Islam is the second most popular religion with 8.2% of the population, followed by Hinduism at 5.9%. As regarding to the Protestant denominations, the Anglican Church accounts for 4.1% of the population, with the United Church of Canada only slightly lagging at 3.7%. The Eastern stream of Christianity is adhered to by 3.7% of the population of the Toronto census metropolitan area that are Christian Orthodox. Judaism is the religion of 3% of Torontonians, closely followed by Sikhism, which is the religion for 2.9% of the Toronto population. The first time Toronto's population was counted was in 1814 and only totaled 720 people. The first census of Toronto, Toronto proper, when they were a city, was taken in 1834 when Toronto was first incorporated with Toronto. So basically, all modern, Toronto, they're all together, all the 6 places, having a population of 9,254. The last recorded population for Toronto was in 2016, which was 2,731,571. Over time, Toronto never really had any, major increases, and just natural population increase, with more population increase over more population increase in one period as opposed to another. All right, tourist attractions. So, as you can see behind me, the CN Tower, Toronto's most famous landmark is, the CN Tower, a 553 meter, 1,000 815-foot tall steel and concrete transmission tower and observation deck, which is one of the tallest structures in the world. The tower held the world record of the world's tallest building from 1975 to 2007 when the Burj Khalifa, located in Dubai in the United Emirates, beat it. The Burj stands at 829.8 meters, or 2,722 feet. In 1995, the CN Tower was declared one of the modern seven wonders of the world by the American Society of Civil Engineers. It also belongs to the World Federation of Great Towers, where it holds second place ranking. The Rising Cafe and the Lookout are at the 346 meters, 1,135.2 feet. The 360 restaurant, a revolving restaurant that completes a full rotation once every 72 minutes, is at 351 meters, 1,151.6 feet. When the tower first opened, it also features a disco named Sparkles at the indoor observation level, built as the highest disco and dance floor in the world. A metal staircase reaches the main deck after 1,776 steps, and the Sky Pod 100 meters above after 2,579 steps. It is the tallest metal staircase on Earth. These stairs are intended for emergency use only and are not open to the public, except for the 2 times per year for charity Claire's climb event. The average climber takes approximately 30 minutes to climb to the base of the random, but the fastest climb on record is 7 minutes and 52 seconds in 1989 by Brendan Kenoy, an Ontario provincial police officer. In 2002, Canadian Olympic and Paralympic champion Jeff Adams climbed the stairs of the tower in a specifically designed wheelchair. The stairs were originally on one of the 3 sides of the tower facing north with a glass view, but these were later replaced with a third elevator pair, and the stairs were moved to the inside of the court. Top climbs on the new windowless stairwell used since around 2003 have generally been over 10 minutes. On August 1st, 2011, the CN Tower opened the Edge Walk, an amusement in which thrill seekers can walk on around the roof of the main part of the tower at 356 meters, 1,168 feet, which is directly above the 360 restaurant. It is the world's highest full-circle, hands-free walk. Visitors are tethered to an overhead rail system and walk around the edge of the CN Tower's main pod above the 360 restaurant on a 1.5 meter, 4.9 feet metal floor. The attraction is closed throughout the winter seasons and during periods of electrical storm and high winds. One of the notable guests who visit the Edge Walk includes comedian Rick Mercer, as featured on his CBC television show Rick Mercer Report, at Ripley's Aquarium Canada. Ripley's Aquarium Canada is a public aquarium in Toronto, Ontario. The aquarium is one of 3 aquariums owned and operated by Ripley's Entertainment. It is located in downtown Toronto, just southeast of the CN Tower. The aquarium features several aquatic exhibits, including a walk-through tank. The aquarium has 5.7 million liters, 1.5 million gallons of marine and freshwater habitats from across the world. The exhibit holds 13,500 exotic sea and freshwater specimens from more than 4,500 species. Ripley's Aquarium was originally planned in 2024 to be built in Niagara Falls, Ontario, next to what is now known the Great Wolf Lodge. Next was now known to as Great Wolf Lodge around 2007, but plans fell through and Ripley's was eventually relocated to Toronto. Construction began on the attraction in August 2011 with a final cost approaching 130 million Canadian dollars. The aquarium opened to the public in October 2013. The aquarium holds 5.7 million liters, 1.5 million gallons of water, and shows marine and freshwater habitats from around the world. The aquarium is organized into 9 galleries: Canadian Waters, Rainbow Reef, Dangerous Lagoon, Discovery Center, the Gallery, Ray Bay, Planet Jellies, Life Support Systems, and the Shoreline Gallery. It is home to 16,000 animals. The Canadian Water exhibit features animals from all bodies of water surrounding the country. The gallery has 17 habitats. Some animals featured in the exhibit include alewife, largemouth bass, largemouth bass, American lobster, wolf eel, lumpfish, giant Pacific octopus, China rockfish. The Rainbow Reef features animals from the Indo-Pacific water regions and is the most colorful gallery in the exhibit, hence its name. Some of the species in this exhibit include Picasso triggerfish, humbug dasilicus, emperor anglefish, pajama cardinalfish, unicorn surgeonfish. The exhibit also features an interactive dive show. The Dangerous Lagoon is an underwater tunnel with a moving sidewalk, which is the aquarium's largest tank. Some of the featured animals in this exhibit include sand tiger shark, sandbar shark, rough-tailed stingray, long-comb sawfish, and green sea turtle. The Discovery Center features various hands-on activities such as underwater viewing of bubbles, a pop-up reach submarine, and a touch pool which allows visitors to touch living fossils. Discovery Center inhabitants include clownfish, palette, surgeonfish, horseshoe crab, and Gillette guinea fowl puffer. The touch exhibits give the visitors the opportunity to touch the skins of various animals like sharks and stingrays with the help of aquarium employees. This gallery is home to white spotted bamboo sharks, brown banded bamboo sharks, the stallion stingray, crown nose ray, and crown nose ray. The gallery exhibit, known as the Mother Nature Art Gallery, features some of the most delicate underwater species from all over the world. This exhibit features the red lionfish, electric eel, line seahorse, weedy sea dragon, and the archerfish. This exhibit features 6 saltwater and 3 freshwater exhibits. The Planet Jellies exhibit has color-changing displays with 5 species of jellyfish. These include the Pacific sea nettle, moon jelly, spotted jelly, and upside-down jelly. The Ray Bay is exhibited focused around 3 distinct species of stingray. Occasionally, visitors can see aquarium divers feeding the stingrays during their daily interactive dive shows. Some of the inhabitants of this exhibit include bonnethead shark, crown nose ray, and southern stingray. The life support system gives visitors a behind-the-scenes look at the aquarium life support systems and room. The building features the largest life support system rooms of Ripley's 3 aquariums. This gallery features equipment for dangerous reefs and Ray Bay. The Toronto City Hall, or New City Hall, is the seat of the municipal government of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and one of the city's most distinctive landmarks. Designed by Finnish architecture Viljo Revel with Heikki Castrén, Bengt Lundsten, and Seppo Välius, and landscape architect Richard Strong, and engineered by Hans-Carl Bendel. The building opened in 1965. It was to replace Old City Hall, which was built in 1899. The current City Hall, located at Nathan Phillips Square, is actually Toronto's 4th and was built in order to replace the former City Hall due to its shortage of space. The area around of Toronto City Hall and Civic Square was formerly the location of Toronto's old Chinatown, which was expropriated and bulldozed during the mid-1950s in preparation for a new civic building. In 1958, an international architecture competition was launched by Mayor Nathan Phillips in order to find a design for the new City Hall. Revel's winning proposal came first along submissions from 42 countries. It consists of near twin towers surrounded by a white-like disc council chamber, which is mounted on a raised platform with entrances located below. There is also a ramp connecting from the square to the podium roof. From there, which is access to the council chamber, the 2 towers are on unequal height, the east tower being taller than the west. The building was named the Eye of the Government because it resembles a large eye with an plain view. Revel died a year before the new City Hall was complete. Yonge Dundas Square, or Dundas Square, is a public square that's situated at the southeast corner of the intersection of Yonge Street and Dundas Street East in downtown Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I've been there before. It's just like a square, with the billboards and stuff. The square was conceived in 1997 as part of revitalizing the intersection and was designed by Brown and Story Architects. Since its completion in 2002, the square has hosted many public events, performances, and art displays, establishing itself as a prominent landmark in Toronto and one of the city's prime tourist attractions. Central to the downtown Yonge Entertainment and Shopping District, the square is owned by the city and is the first public square in Canada to be maintained through a private-public partnership. The intersection is one of the busiest in Canada, serving over 100,000 pedestrians daily, and that's like the population of some like towns, just like people just walking. Wow, that's crazy. Toronto Islands. The Toronto Islands are a chain of small islands in Lake Ontario, south of mainland Toronto, Ontario, Canada, comprising the only group of islands in the western part of Lake Ontario. The Toronto Islands are located just offshore from the city centre and provide shelter for the Toronto Harbour. The islands are home to Parkland, the Billy Bishop Toronto City Airport, several yacht clubs, Centerville Amusement Park, and Handlands Beach. The island community is considered to be the largest urban car-free community in North America, although some service vehicles are permitted. Access to the islands by ferry, including the City of Toronto ferries operating from Jack Layton Ferry Terminal at the foot of Bay Street, or by water taxis. The island is a popular recreation destination. Recreational bicyclists are accommodated on the ferries. There is a public bicycle sharing station operated by Bike Share Toronto. at the Jack Lane Ferry Terminal, and bicycles and quadricycles can be rented at Center Island. Canoes, kayaks, and paddleboats can also be rented on island. A frisbee golf course exists on the island. The main beach is along the south shore, and the beach on the west shore is clothing optional. Ooh, okay. There's ample park land suitable for picnicking, which is popular, several playgrounds, and several gardens. The Toronto Islands is part of the largest car-free urban community in North America. Accessible by ferry, the islands includes a public park and a children's amusement park, Centerville. The city has several large forested urban parks, the best known for being High Park to the west of downtown. The city is crisscrossed by networks of ravines that have remained almost wholly undeveloped. And those are only some of the places. If I kept talking about them in detail, like what I just did, I would have been this episode would have been like 2 hours. So yeah, I cannot do that. So, and along with those places that I just said, and those are only some of them, you can go to the Royal Ontario Museum, the St. Lawrence Market, the Hockey Hall of Fame, the Panorama Lounge, St. Michael's Cathedral, St. Paul's Basilica, the Art Gallery of Ontario, the Ontario Science Centre, the Leslie Street Spit, the Toronto Zoo, and Little Glen. And as I said, if I talked about this before, if I talk about all the tourist attractions, we would literally be here all day. And yeah, on to the next section. Some of the things that I'll be talking about already happened, but they'll be included on this section anyway. Parkway Forest. Emerald City, located in Parkway Forest, is a new community under construction in the Parkway Forest neighborhood, adjacent to the Don Mills subway station and Fairview Mall. Once completed, the project will include residential condominium towers, rental replacement buildings, and new community services and facilities. This project includes a new community center with a gymnasium, a running track, daycare facilities, an outdoor pool, a new community agency space, and public art commissioned from renowned artist Douglas Coupland. The new mid-rise rental buildings and townhouses are now occupied, and the occupancy of the first residential condominium tower commenced in December 2013. Construction on the Parkway Forest community is anticipated to be completed by summer 2014, which is literally like 4 years ago. And Dufferin Street Avenue study, led by Northrop Community Planning. This study will help deliver on a vision to transform an auto-oriented pass-through corridor in the livable, walkable, mixed-use community. The study proposes a landscape promenade with ample setbacks, a double row of trees for deeper lots, open courtyards, and urban plazas. The street-safe plan includes landscape medians and approximately 3 kilometers of O Street bicycle lanes. As part of future developments, up to 2 hectares of public parkland, as well as new community services and facilities will be added to meet the needs of a growing population. Alright, Eglinton Connects. The Eglinton Connects plan sets an important precedent for future city building while supporting the objectives of tomorrow's official plan. It creates a vision for the street, public realm, and built form that is integrated with the Crosstown LRT, an under-construction transit line that will transform the corridor when complete. Through a series of 5 reports, the effort of city staff and council led to a plan with 21 key recommendations. The plan includes a multi-stage implementation strategy for creating a complete street that incorporates the city's longest dedicated bike lanes, wide-ranging new public spaces and facilities from civic squares and pedestrian connections to parks and community services, and growing jobs and residents, primarily through mid-rise development. 6-Point Interchange. In the 1960s, a highway-style interchange was built at the intersection of Kipling Avenue, Bloor Street West, and Dundas Street West. In the area of urban expansion that prioritized the movement of cars, 6-Point Interchange physically divided an existing community and broke up its main street character. Today, traffic movement through interchange is free-flowing, making walking and cycling a real challenge. First proposed in 1987, the city began to actively plan the reconstruction of the interchange in 2007. The removal of bridges and underpasses and creation of new streets and parks will reconnect the neighborhoods and unlock land for development. Detailed designs of complete streets that allow for safe pedestrian and bicycle movement is currently underway. Improved transit connections, wide sidewalks, cycle tracks on the boulevard, and street trees will continue to a comfortable and attractive public realm. Strategies to capture stormwater in the landscape beds will provide irrigation and help improve water quality, contributing to the city's sustainability objectives. The first phase of construction, launched October 2014, includes regarding and below-grade infrastructure improvements along the future Dundas Loop. The second phase of construction which will see the full build out of the project, is being initiated in 2015 with the completion scheduled for 2018. So it's basically done. In 1973, Lieutenant John Graves Simcoe moved the capital of Upper Canada to Toronto, which he named York. Oh yeah, Upper Canada is before it was Canada, it used to be Upper Canada and Lower Canada. There's just like the two parts, and I'll put a map right now for you to see what was Upper Canada, Lower Canada, not wanting an Aboriginal name. So in 1793, Lieutenant Governor John Graves Simcoe moved the capital of Upper Canada to Toronto, which he named York, not wanting an Aboriginal name. Simcoe originally planned for York to be a city and military outpost and to set up a capital in the area of London, Ontario. But he abandoned the plan, and York was named the permanent capital in 1796. The Mississaugas, which is like a First Nations tribe, there's a city named Mississauga, and I'll be doing that in a future episode, set up a settlement reserve in Port Credit to the west of York, and eventually moved further west. There are several explanations for the source and the meaning of the name Toronto. One claim is that the origin of the Seneca, which is like a First Nations tribe, word Giando, meaning on the other side, which is the place where the Humber River narrows at the foot of the pass of the village Teichgon. Another is that the term from the Mohawk word Toronto, meaning Mohawk is a First Nation tribe, meaning where the trees are standing in the water, which could either refer to the Toronto Bay, Toronto Harbor, or Lake Simcoe. Lake Simcoe being at one time known as Lake Toronto. The name of Toronto has a history distinct from itself, that of the city itself. Originally, the term Taranto referred to a channel of water between Lake Simcoe and Lake Couchiching, but in time the name passed southward and was eventually applied to a new fort at the mouth of Humber River. Fort Toronto was the first settlement in the area and lent its name to what is now known as the city of Toronto. John Graves Simcoe identified the area as a strategic location to base a new capital for Upper Canada, believing Newark to be susceptible to American invasion. A garrison was established at Garrison Creek on the western entrance to the docks of Toronto in 1793. This later became Fort York. I've been there before. The settlement it defended was renamed York on August 26, 1793, as Simcoe favored English names over those of First Nation languages. In honor of Prince Frederick, Duke of York, residents petitioned to change the name back to Toronto. In 1834, the city was incorporated with the original name. Common nicknames for Toronto include Queen City, Hogtown, because lots of pork was manufactured in Toronto, T.O., derived from Toronto, Ontario Dot, the Big Smoke, and the Six, originating from Toronto native rapper Drake, who coined the nickname based on shared digits of the 416 and 647, or based on the 6 boroughs of Toronto. First Toronto was named York from 1793 to 1834. Then it became Old Toronto from 1834 to 1954. From 1954 to 1958, it was known as Metropolitan Toronto, and finally, everything amalgamated, all the 6 districts, and were amalgamated into the city now known as Toronto. Also, really sorry for the episode being really long, but I hope you liked and you enjoyed the episode, and you learned a lot about Toronto in this episode, and I like doing research for this episode. And next episode is Quebec City, and peace out.